Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister to file a defamation suit over an opposition legislator's corruption claims. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Wednesday, October 10th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is to take legal action against opposition legislator Dr. Rudal Munilal over statements he made linking him to a beneficiary bank account in the United States. Accompanied by his lawyer, Michael Quimina, Rowley denied allegations that he benefited financially from a contract between A&V Drilling and the state-owned oil company Petrotrin. Munilal made the claims during Tuesday's budget debate in Parliament, where he read from documents he claimed showed the Prime Minister had benefited from financial transactions conducted through a Florida-based bank. At a news conference on a Wednesday, Rowley labeled Munilal's allegations a monstrous lie and a heinous crime. And he says he will call on the Commissioner of Police and the Financial Intelligence Unit to initiate probes into the opposition legislator's claims.
While the FIU has some requirement to keep its investigations secret, in situations like this, the outcome of an FIU investigation ought to be made known to the public, and I so request that the FIU investigate this matter immediately and report to the public on its findings with respect to me and any other person who may be interested in their business being made public. I certainly want mine to be made public. And I also am instructing the Attorney General to use the Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty, MLAT, to communicate officially from Trinidad and Tobago with the authorities in Florida to pursue the statements made and documents quoted from by Dr. Munilal yesterday in pursuance of confirmation of any and all allegation made by Dr. Munilal in the Parliament yesterday, and that the Attorney General would do this with dispatch and make the responses from Florida available to the public of Trinidad and Tobago.
Rowley's attorney says while the original statements made by Munilal in Parliament were protected by parliamentary privilege, posting them on his social media account on Facebook opened the way for the legal action to be taken. He says Munilal's activities after the sitting of Parliament on Tuesday night led to a repetition of the defamatory statements. And he says legal action will also be taken against other individuals, particularly paid bloggers.
Circumstances, it is our intention to launch an action in relation to Dr. Munilal with respect to these statements. I will also be having a careful look at the interviews which Dr. Munilal has conducted during the course of the day and adding to that claim if it is necessary. In addition to which, you would no doubt be aware that the video of Dr. Munilal's presentation has been widely circulated on social media. Those paid bloggers who choose to comment adversely in relation to my client will also be the subject of an action in defamation. They are not protected by parliamentary privilege. And if they choose to comment adversely and make statements which are unacceptable in relation to my client, well then in those circumstances they will be the subject matter of an action.
Meanwhile, Munilal says while he won't repeat the statements he made in Parliament, he stands steadfastly by them.
The FIU has no jurisdiction there. Their jurisdiction is in Trinidad. Again, if the Prime Minister wants, he can write a letter to the head of the FIU, give supporting documents and indicate that he would like the FIU to look into this matter. But to sit on his throne today by himself and in this dazed manner to call on this one to investigate and that one, he's out of place and he's abusing the Parliament as he goes along. I will say that I have made certain statements. It is the Hansard record. I stand by that strongly. There's a next problem. If the Prime Minister wants all these investigations, there's no matter of the Privileges Committee. You cannot investigate anything at the Privileges Committee when there are other parties and agencies investigating this matter.
Meantime, a high court on Wednesday ruled in favor of opposition leader Kamla Prasad-Bissessar in her defamation lawsuit against the Sunshine Publishing Company Limited, owned by former cabinet colleague Austin Jack Warner. She taken legal action after the newspaper published an article on December 4, 2015, under the headline, "Kamla Facing Extradition to U.S." The article was based on an October 12, 2012 letter allegedly from then U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders. When the matter came up for hearing in the San Fernando High Court on Wednesday, Justice David Harris said damages are to be paid for libel, including aggravating and exemplary damages and costs for Prasad-Bissessar. He also ordered an injunction restricting the defendant from further publishing the allegation or any similar allegation. Damages are to be assessed on a date to be fixed. Warner was not present in the court for the ruling. Well, staying in the courts in Trinidad and Tobago, state-owned oil company Petrotrin has officially filed its appeal against an injunction stopping it from terminating workers as it moves to close the refinery. Lawyers for the company filed the appeal on Tuesday afternoon and are awaiting a date for a hearing. On Monday, the Industrial Court granted the injunction filed by the Oilfield Workers Trade Union, the OWTU, until the hearing of a matter in which the union alleges the Petrotrin company committed an industrial relations offense by failing to consult with it before taking the decision to close the company and send home about 5,500 workers. In addition to appealing the injunction, lawyers for Petrotrin have put a gag on company chairman Wilfred Espinay, who made controversial statements about the court following its injunction decision. We get more from CNC3's Kamal Georges.
While the appeal was being filed, the attorneys have also muzzled Chairman Wilfred Espinay. During an interview on CNC3 last evening, Espinay criticized the ruling. But during an interview on a local radio station today, he went further, saying that both the industrial court and the idea of trade unions are outdated and, quote, out of touch. In a telephone interview with Guardian Media following that interview, Espinay said he can no longer speak on the issue of the industrial court or its decision, as it could be seen as contempt. But earlier, he said the court was structured and given laws for a different time. Well, he believes the court should be reviewed in terms of today's environment. He told the station he would have held the same view if the ruling was in Petrotrin's favor. As it relates to the appeal that was filed, Petrotrin is claiming that the industrial court erred in law as it had no jurisdiction to grant the injunctions. Attorneys claim industrial relations offenses are criminal offenses and therefore do not attract injunctive relief.
Over in Jamaica, the Firearms Act is being reviewed and provisions made in legislation for criminal sanctions to be imposed on persons within the administration of the Firearm Licensing Authority, the FLA, who commit breaches. The disclosure came Tuesday during a sitting of Parliament's Internal and External Affairs Committee from the FLA's Chief Executive Officer Shane Dallin, who also revealed that more than 100 guns for which licenses were issued in breach of protocols remain in the hands of individuals. It also came to light that one of the agency's employees had given back a firearm to someone who had a matter before the gun court. Responding to questions, the FLA's chief executive identified breaches in the granting of gun licenses, including some employees collecting money from applicants and interference from persons in departments that played no role in the approval process. He said there was also interaction by board members with staff to influence gun permit applications and the general breakdown of the procedures that ought to be followed. We get more from Andrea Chisholm of TVJ News.
It's another edition of the corruption scandal gripping the Firearm Licensing Authority FLA. Here's Shane Dalling, the Chief Executive Officer.
We found cases where really incidents of wives reporting abuse by use of the firearm. Yet we found that the wife's firearm was taken and not the abuser. We found where the license holder was before the gun court and the wife spent weeks in hospital from the abuse. And the reports that the firearm, although it was taken, was returned to the license holder by staff members going into the vault and retrieving the firearm on behalf of the license holder.
To make it worse, Mr. Dalling said the person who retrieved the gun did not work in the department or the vault area. Now to another issue. Before June 2017, staff members were sending firearm applications directly to the board without the file being fully vetted by the authority.
The files are sent to the board and a decision is made without necessary security clearance coming in. And after, in cases where the licenses have been granted, the security clearance comes in and there are adverse traces on the individual. It then placed us in an awkward situation in trying to retrieve that firearm from that person.
How many applications would you say breached the protocol before you were able to implement systems that fixed it?
Several, and we're still counting.
Just a ballpark.
We're over 100.
Over 100, under 200?
The numbers are going up as we go along each day.
Mr. Dalling also indicated that staff members were collecting money for applications. To help fix the problem, the FLA says its internal procedures are being strengthened. All firearm applications now have to pass through the Office of the Chief Executive Officer before they are submitted to the board.
The Firearm Act is being amended and provisions are being made in the legislation for criminal sanctions to be imposed in cases where there are certain impropriety on the part of the administration.
Coming up in Caribbean Newsline, St. Kitts and Nevis' Prime Minister says making the CCJ his country's final court isn't a priority for his government. Stay with us.
Shower in the evening or take a fresh at night. Enjoy a warm shower with Solar Dynamics, you feel alright. Comfort, safety, temperature guaranteed. Long service fulfilling your every need. Take a shower in comfort and no more ouch with water touch you. Solar Dynamics is the best for you. Save on electricity, be environmentally friendly. Solar Dynamics is the one for you.
Imagine a tropical getaway where you can indulge in unsurpassed cuisine, culture and adventure this side of the hemisphere at a special rate. Fall for Barbados this October and dive into the rich offerings of the Caribbean Sea or hear the stirring melodies of jazz at the Elan Trotman Jazz Excursion. Explore fine dining with our world-renowned Barbados Food and Rum Festival. Journey to our many attractions. There is so much to see and do in Barbados this October. Book today with code #4BGI.
Well, I'll just say, in my experience, I've always sometimes really preferred to be the token minority or the only woman. I've preferred having male bosses over female bosses. Not all the time, but usually it's been, I think women can sometimes hate on each other a little too much.
That's true.
And I think I've used it to my advantage. So in a racial sense, for example, I think sometimes people go out of their way to demonstrate how open and accepting they really are.
St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris says joining the Trinidad-based Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, is not a priority for his government. Speaking on local radio, he said Cabinet will perhaps consider the matter at a more proficient time. Harris said, quote, "At this moment, I think there is a sense that the Privy Council is favored by the national community," end quote. St. Kitts Nevis is among CARICOM countries that have signed on to the original jurisdiction of the CCJ, but only Barbados, Belize, Dominica and Guyana have made it their final appeal court. Harris told radio listeners that the issue of replacing the Privy Council with the CCJ is one that his country will someday have to confront, but it doesn't have to just yet. The Prime Minister said when that time comes, it would have to be put before the people for them to decide. Meantime, when voters in Antigua and Barbuda go to the polls on November 6 to decide whether to make the switch, they will have an updated question to answer. Earlier this month, the Antigua and Barbuda Electoral Commission issued a statement indicating that voters would be asked if they approve the Constitutional Referendum Amendment Bill 2018 for an act to alter the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda. But the question has been criticized by some who have pointed out that it makes no reference to either the Privy Council or the CCJ. Speaking on a radio program, Supervisor of Elections Lorna Simon said the Electoral Commission had taken note of the concerns raised and the question has since been amended. It now reads, "Do you approve the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda Amendment Bill 2018, which is a bill for an act to alter the Constitution of Antigua and Barbuda to terminate Her Majesty in Council, also known as the Privy Council, as the final court of appeal for Antigua and Barbuda, and to replace it with the Caribbean Court of Justice, also known as the CCJ. A two-thirds majority is needed for the yes vote to succeed. And as for Grenada, where a CCJ referendum will also be held on the same day, residents will be required to answer yes or no to the question, do you approve the bill for an act proposing to alter the Constitution of Grenada, cited as Constitution of Grenada, Caribbean Court of Justice, and renaming of Supreme Court Amendment Bill 2018? The Parliamentary Elections Office disclosed this week that 79,397 people have registered to vote on that question. It said voters have until October 15th to make any adjustment to the final list that will be used for the referendum. Over in Guyana, education officials and officials of the Teachers Union emerged from a more than 2-hour meeting at the Education Ministry, appearing confident that the standoff over salary increases would be coming to an end soon. While tight-lipped on the meeting and proposals made, the two sides issued a joint press statement which indicated that they discussed the proposals for salaries and new information was provided and discussed. They committed to review the information with a view of ensuring that the interests of all teachers will be considered. The Ministry of Education has undertaken to provide figures which will be presented for discussion on Friday. GTU General Secretary Coretta MacDonald said teachers can now rest comfortably, knowing that their interests are being well taken care of. She said the GTU has always put the interest of the teachers first, and the union is confident that there should soon be an end to the impasse. The latest offer by the government is still on the table. That's a 10% salary increase for 2016, with an 8% increase for this year. But that's likely to see some adjustments as the two sides continue with their meetings. Ahead in Newsline Sport, Brittany Cooper recalled to West Indies women for the T20 World Cup.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Be prepared. Before the hurricane, protect your windows. Permanent shutters are the best protection. A low-cost approach is to put up plywood panels.
Shower in the evening or take a fresh at night. Enjoy a warm shower with Solar Dynamics, you feel alright. Comfort, safety, temperature guaranteed. Long service fulfilling your every need. Take a shower in comfort and no more upstream water touch you. Solar Dynamics is the best for you. Save on electricity, be environmentally friendly. Solar Dynamics is the one for you.
Dominica's World Creole Music Festival in 2018, October 26, 27, 28 at the Windsor Park Stadium in the capital city, Roseau. 3 nights, over 8 genres, 40 years of independence, 1 location, Dominica, the 20th edition of Dominica's World Creole Music Festival. For more information, like our Facebook page, Dominica Festivals. Visit our website, www.dominicafestivals.com for all travel, accommodation, and ticketing details. My love, my home, my Dominica. Building a resilient nation. See you there! Proudly sponsored by the Government of Dominica and Discover Dominica Authority.
Continuing with sports now, stroke maker Brittany Cooper has been recalled for West Indies' defense of their ICC T20 Women's World Cup title in a 15-member squad announced on Wednesday. The experienced right-hander has been joined by 23-year-old batsman Chanel Henry, who has returned following 3 years in the wilderness, while uncapped off-spinner Shanetta Grimmond keeps her place in the squad after being called up for the just-concluded 5-match series against South Africa. Selectors have dropped left-arm pacer Kiana Joseph and uncapped slow-medium Karishma Ramharak, both of whom were included for the South Africa series but did not feature. The squad retains the core of the championship side from 2016, with former captain Marissa Aguilera, Deandra Dottin and Hayley Matthews headlining the unit, which will be led again by Stephanie Taylor. West Indies will do battle in Group A alongside powerful England, South Africa, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, while Group B comprises 26 losing finalists Australia, New Zealand, India, Pakistan and Ireland. And still in cricket, West Indies captain Jason Holder hits back at cricket critics who condemned the regional side in the first test against India at Rajkot. The Windies were crushed by an emphatic innings and 272 runs inside 3 days, prompting heavy criticism, notably from ex-Test batsman Darren Ganga, who said recently that the regional game needs a structural overhaul. Ganga also said the first test was a meek surrender and it would be difficult for the team to recover. But speaking ahead of the second test, which bowls off on Friday, Holder dismissed the claims, saying that India has always been a difficult team to beat in Test cricket.
A lot has been said about this Test team particularly, and lots of things that I am not in agreement with, because we've beaten, top sides in the last 2-3 years that we've played. We haven't probably won as many series as we would like, but within the last year, I think we've won 2 out of 4 or 5 series that we've played. So I don't understand why people would be, this harsh towards us. We're playing on one side in India, in their backyard. And history will show we haven't won a Test match here, I think, since 1994. And if you look at the history of players who came through West Indies cricket, I think Brian Lara and the rest of these guys have been playing all that time. Look, again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Again, I just focus primarily on what I have to do and what the team has to do.
And that second test bowls off at 12 a.m. on Friday. Over to action in the Regional Super 50, where Combined Campuses and Colleges, CCC, pulled off a convincing 7-wicket victory against Barbados Pride at the 3Ws Oval on Wednesday. Pride was dismissed for 174 off 49 overs. The lower order batsmen were instrumental in taking them to a respectable total, with Shane Mosley top scoring on 49 and Kevin Stout chipping in 37. Captain Carlos Brathwaite and Akeem Jordan picked up 3 wickets each. Brathwaite returned to the crease in the reply and hammered a superb unbeaten half-century, taking the Marooners over the line with over 20 overs to spare. Brathwaite was assisted by Jonathan Drakes, who remained unbeaten on 41, while Kishore Otley perished on 42. Meanwhile, rain robbed Windward Islands Volcanoes of valuable points as their Group B match against Windies B finished in a disappointing no result at Queen's Park Oval on Tuesday night. Opting for first knock, Windies B got 57 from opener Keegan Simmons as they were dismissed for 220 in the 49th over. Wicket-keeper Tevin Imlak struck 43, opener Kimani Milius chipped in with 33, while Kirsten Kalicharan stroked 29 and captain Marlon Samuels 24. Windies B started well and was cruising on 142 for 2 in the 19th over at one point before declining at the back end of the innings. Simmons faced 83 balls and struck 5 fours as they posted a run-a-ball 42 for the first wicket with Melius, who slammed 2 fours and 3 sixes in a 22-ball cameo. In reply, Devon Smith was looking ominous, smashing 3 fours and a 6 in a 23-ball unbeaten 27 as Volcanoes attacked from the outset. His opener partner, Tyrone Theophil, was forced to retire hurt in the 4th over on 9 with the score on 35, but Kirk Edwards arrived to lash 2 fours in 9 off 13 balls to sustain the tempo. However, the heavens opened up, leaving the venue unfit for a restart. Over to football now, where the Jamaica Reggae Girls are set to make history as the first Caribbean nation to qualify for next year's FIFA Women's World Cup following their upset victory over giants Costa Rica. TVJ's Trishana McGowan has that story.
Jamaica's Reggae Girls are a step closer to a historic appearance at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup after beating Costa Rica 1-0 on Monday evening. The Jamaicans picked up 3 valuable points through a Khadijah Shaw 46-minute strike.
Taken away.
Jamaica, who had lost their opening game 2-0 to Canada, is third on the table with 3 points, the same as Costa Rica, who had a superior goal difference after beating Cuba 8-0. In the day's late game, Canada trounced Cuba 12-0 to lead the group on 6 points. Jamaica will next play the already eliminated Cuba on Thursday, while Costa Rica oppose Canada in Group B action. 2 teams will advance from the group to meet their Group A counterparts in the semifinals. From there, the top 3 finishers will qualify for the FIFA World Cup in France next year, while the 4th place team faces Argentina in a home and away playoff series.
And England-based striker Naki Wells has pulled out of Bermuda's second CONCACAF Nations League qualifying match against St. Martin at the National Sports Stadium last Friday because of family commitments. Wells missed Bermuda's opening Nations League game against Aruba, which they lost 3-1, but had told Lightbourne he would be available for the St. Martin match and another against El Salvador next month during the international breaks. He last played for Bermuda on the international stage in 2015 when he scored twice in a World Cup qualifier at home against the Bahamas. Most of Bermuda's overseas-based players have already returned, with captain Reggie Lamb due to arrive on Wednesday night from English club Cambridge United, who have slipped into the relegation zone. St. Martin come again into Friday's game on the back of a 13-0 pasting against Haiti. And that sport, we'll be right back.
Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
This month on Caribbean Passport, dive into the creative world, fashion, music, festivals, and cuisine. So get your passports ready and let's travel. All coming up on this channel.
Recap of the major developments of this day: Trinidad and Tobago's Prime Minister to file a defamation suit over an opposition legislator's corruption claims. And in sport, Brittany Cooper recalled to West Indies women for the T20 World Cup. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sports around the clock, log on to kanonnews.com, and for more of our programming, log on to caribvision.tv and subscribe to CaribVision's YouTube channel. We'll be back here again tomorrow, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and good night.